All right. Hello, everyone. My name is Jarne and also known as Healing Magic 27. Welcome to the Higher States Show, episode number 2. And I have wonderful Annie Bourke with me today. We met, I think, a year ago, also online. We both lived in Brisbane. We haven't met yet in person, though we had some interesting conversations already. We want to talk about soul evolvement today. Excuse me. And yeah, Annie is an international animal communicator. All right, hello. International animal communicator and medium. So Annie, please introduce yourself.
Thank you. And yes, we did meet at some networking events, and we've done a joint webinar together as well about soul development and spiritual awakenings. So yes, we have common interests, which is great. So I've been an animal communicator and animal medium for over 12 years now, which means I have conversations with animals who are living and animals who are in spirit. And for me, that gives me the opportunity to give their human parents peace of mind because I can ask them questions and get answers for them. So for living animals, whether they've got issues with behaviour changes or health issues, I can ask them what's happening, why they're doing it. And for animals in spirit, then I can confirm that they've safely transitioned, what their messages are for their humans. And if the humans weren't there when their animal passed or they don't know why they passed, then I can ask them those questions as well. But in addition to having conversations on behalf of animal parents, I'm now mentoring animal parents so that they can learn how to speak telepathically with their own animals. And that's absolutely amazing because it changes your animal's world and your world when you can have a conversation with them and know what they want to tell you when they want to tell you. I also am writing my 3rd book at the moment. I have a podcast called What Animals Tell Me, and I speak at events. And I also am very interested in natural remedies with healing. So I combine Reiki and crystal therapy and clinical aromatherapy to support animals and support humans. So I've got lots of different interests in looking after animals, but also supporting humans on their spiritual development journey. So soul
Awesome.
involvement is a big part of that.
It is. And animals do have a soul as well, right? And I like to say that I do have soul to soul conversations. I mean, sometimes the ego comes in, right? But I love to communicate to souls. And I always felt that I do have that telepathic connection with other beings, right? If it's a human, if it's a cat, a dog, a lion, watching them in the eyes is always a very great experience. Tell me, when did you found your gift? Like, what moved you towards working in that space?
I'd always felt that animals could understand me, and it used to frustrate me that I couldn't understand what they were trying to tell me back again. And I actually used to say to my cats, I wish I could speak cat. And I had a little ginger girl cat who sadly passed away after a short illness. And it made me feel as though I'd missed the opportunity to get to know her on a deeper level. So she inspired me to look for an animal communication course. And I found one online, and the image of the cat on the front of the website looked exactly like her. And I just thought, wow, there's a sign from the universe that this is what I'm supposed to be doing. And I've actually spoken to her in spirit and just said how I felt about her passing before we could communicate. She's got no regrets or grudges about that. That was her purpose, to guide me to doing this, because she knew that was my life purpose. And so she achieved her purpose helping me. And I can talk to her now in spirit whenever I want to. And she's appeared in meditations and dreams. So it's been lovely to do that. So that was over 12 years ago. And I practiced a lot with my very patient cats at the time. And then I started practicing with friends' animals and going and talking with animals in zoos. And I think it's lovely for them because they don't get a lot of people talking to them. And so I think they appreciate having those conversations as well. And then it's just expanded out from that. And yes, animals do have souls, even though that's not legislated in a lot of countries around the world yet. They do feel emotions. They're highly intelligent. They're very intuitive. And the amazing thing is they understand every word that we say. So I meet a lot of people who say, oh, yeah, it's just a dog and it knows no and walk and that's it. But they've got a very sophisticated understanding of English. And it's fascinating talking to them, finding out what they know and what they want us to know. So yeah, I just learn with every conversation. And they've got great senses of humour. Their personalities come through. They've all got different voices, just like humans. So you can tell when they're telling jokes. I had to speak to a horse who ran into an electric fence and he actually burnt himself on his chest. So he was in pain. And he said to me, oh, that was shocking. And like he totally got the pun on shocking. He deliberately chose that word. And like some of them just make me laugh with the things they come out with, but they are hilarious. But yeah, very intelligent.
I always had conversations with my cats, and my cat walked with me when I went out, had a smoke, smoking a joint back then, coming back in and just sitting next to me the whole process, and then coming back within me, back within, laying on my bed. And they all want to have that connection that we all long for, right? We long to feel connected. And what I see in society is that many people are disconnected to themselves and therefore to others, that we feel separated from each other rather than actually allowing ourselves to feel each other, right? To be with each other, to be in each other's space, and to have conversations on a heartfelt level. What do you think about that?
I totally agree. Animals do have souls. And my understanding is that, you know, we're souls that have decided to incarnate in a human body, and our animals are souls that have decided to incarnate in this lifetime in an animal body. But we can have experiences in both. But in both cases, the soul is here to learn, and connection is part of that. And particularly with animals, they have a very strong impact on our hearts. So anyone who's had an animal will know the love that they feel for an animal, but also the unconditional love that we get from an animal. And as part of our soul evolvement, we have to evolve our hearts, and animals are integral in developing our hearts. And there is this beautiful quote by Anatole France that unless you've loved an animal, a part of your soul remains unawakened. And I think that's just beautiful, because animals are such pure souls. They don't judge us. They don't criticize us. They don't care what we look like, what our hair looks like, our choice in partners. They just love us unconditionally. They want to
Or
be
how we
with us. Whatever, they just absolutely
Yeah,
love being with us, and they do crave that connection. So they love it when we know that they are understanding what we're saying, but they just love hearing what we're doing. They just want to be involved in what we're doing. They love the one-on-one time with us. They really value that. And so that's all part of our journey, is growing by having them being with us on our journey.
what do you think is a challenge that animal, I don't want to say ownership is not the
Well, I
right,
call them parents, animal
parents,
parents.
there you
Yep.
go, what
Mhm.
animal parents are facing in strengthening their relationship with their animal?
So just talking to them verbally like we are now, they love hearing our voice. And what's really powerful for our animals is to tell them that we love them and we're grateful that they're with us. They know that, but hearing us saying those high vibrational words,
Mm-hmm.
love and gratitude, really affects them, and they love us saying that. And it's hard because we don't know how long our animals are going to stay with us, and we can't take any time for granted. So it's a good habit to get into just every day, to tell them that you love them and you're so grateful that they're with you. And that's the first step in changing a relationship.
I
And
love that.
I've had people talk to me and I've told them that, and they've gone home and had a conversation with their animals, and they've contacted me and said, you know, it's changed the way they look at me and how they want to be with me. And I haven't spoken to the animal at all. Their owner has, or parent, but it's just the way that you talk and what you talk about that they're just so intrigued by, and that just really deepens the relationship. Having a conversation with them, like when I have a conversation with someone's animal and ask their questions, that changes the relationship as well, because the animal knows that their human parent has arranged that conversation and they've cared enough to ask the questions and get the answers. So everybody says how different their animals are after the conversation, again, with that affection that they show, the eye contact, like you can just look in their eyes and you can see that they know that you arranged that conversation. And then deepening the conversation beyond that is learning how to speak with them telepathically. And that's how animals communicate with each other. And it's a silent language, so you're not actually saying anything out loud. So when I go to zoos, I'm just standing there at the outside of the enclosure, but I'm communicating with that animal. And they know exactly what's going on. They know that I'm talking with them. And I had an amazing experience with a snow leopard, and he was right up at the back of his enclosure when I first spoke with him. And when I came back again in the afternoon, he saw me and he came right down the front and he was just right opposite me to continue our conversation. So, yeah, they're very well aware of that. So talking to them, finding out what they want, you know, is there something they're not happy about? Sometimes they might be having some friction with other animals in the house. They may not like the energy of someone who's in the house. There's all sorts of things that can affect their behaviour. But often when they change behaviour, it's because they're trying to get your attention. They're trying to tell you something.
It's like children.
Yep. And
like
the most effective way
Mm.
when they can't talk to us, because we notice when they change behaviour. And some of these animals are trying to tell their parents who they are. And that's one of the other amazing things I've discovered with these conversations, is that our animal souls can reincarnate. And they don't all reincarnate, but a lot do. So some of these animals may have been our childhood pets that have come back to be with us, and they're trying to tell us, this is who I am, this is who I am. And we're just not getting the message. And it's just so exciting once we know who they are, because, you know, that's a second lifetime we get of having love relationship with that animal. And so
I've
yeah.
experienced the same with humans. A friend of mine, I was just naming her before, I think she said her mother turned out to be her son. I'm like, wow, how do you know? She said he told me. I'm like, okay, this is an interesting concept.
So I'm going buzzy listening to you saying that. So that's my soul confirming that you were telling the truth. So that's what animals have taught me as well, that sometimes they can have had past lives as a human. They can have had a past life as an animal with you. And sometimes the animal that's with you now can have the soul of a human. And so it may be a grandparent, it could be a parent, it could be a child who passed away prematurely. I've had all sorts of different relationships that animals have that I've been working out with these conversations. And to me, it's fascinating working out why you feel you have such a strong connection to your animal and you don't know why, or you might feel there's something familiar about them and you don't know why. And so if it's an animal that you've had before, or if it's a human who's passed over, it makes absolute sense once you know what the connection is.
Why would you think is it because of the strong relationship bond that the souls have, that they make the agreement, maybe even in a higher dimension, in a higher dimensional plane, where we humans in this 3D scenario not are aware of? Do you think that they do have those contracts, or what do you think about soul contracts in general?
Yes, good question. And I think it's almost like a soulmate relationship. I know with one of my cats, he showed me past lives we've had together going back thousands of years. So our souls have had this strong connection for thousands of years. And he's had multiple lifetimes with me that I was unaware of, sometimes as a human, sometimes as an animal. And so, yes, I think you're quite right that there is some kind of agreement that the souls keep coming back and reconnecting in different lifetimes, or coming back multiple times in the same lifetime.
It is fascinating because I do personally hear those stories from other people. I did had some throwbacks as well, that I did remember the past life. Though in terms of the connection with animals or with souls, it is interesting how some souls obviously choose to do both, right? To have a switch, okay, as I'm going to be incarnated into an animal, some in a human. Do you think that souls choose this themselves?
I think there must be some choice, because I get asked a lot when an animal's coming back if they're going to come back as the same animal. And a lot of the cats I've spoken with come back as a cat breed, but it may be a different cat breed to what they were. It depends on the body that they can find that's available for them to come back into. And interestingly, they don't always come back when that animal is conceived. So the soul can actually swap into an older animal body. And so I've had a couple of animals where they've swapped into an animal that's about 3 years old. And the
Does this
soul
happen
who's
with
living in
humans too?
I haven't asked that question, but I have heard of people being aware when there's a change and it's assumed that that
Mm-hmm.
original soul has swapped out and another soul has swapped in. But that's definitely what happens with animals. And a lot of dogs come back as different dog breeds. But I had a cat that I spoke with who was determined to come back as a dog. She wanted to go to dog-friendly cafes. She wanted to go on walks with her mum, and she wanted to go away on the family holidays. She didn't want to miss out. So she obviously had some choice, because she did come back as a dog. And I was intrigued to see how she would cope being in a dog body rather than being in a cat body. Absolutely fascinating, because she's gone back and played with her old cat toys. She's played with her new dog toys. And the one thing she can't do in a dog body is to leap up onto her human's bed at night to go to sleep with them. So they've had to get a set of stairs for her so she can walk up the stairs and get on the bed. But they can see so many of the cat's behaviours in this dog, so they know it's definitely their cat. Someone else I've spoken with, their dog came back in a cow body and does all these behaviours similar to the dog, including running up to them like the dog and being very affectionate. So I'm convinced that they have some choice in who they come back as. And if something happens with that body that they've lined up to come back into, they can then swap and try and find another body to come back in. And I've had that happen a couple of times, that for some reason the adoption process didn't come through, or the animal got very sick. And so the soul can swap out and find another way to get back to their humans again.
Mm-hmm.
I would assume it's similar with humans, but I haven't had any conversations that I can use as examples of that.
So I did have the remembrance in the last years for me signing my soul contract and looking for the right body and family and circumstances to perform in the way that I chose to perform here in this lifetime. So I saw myself, my guide, my main guide, and having like this, not like a three-dimensional wheel, but somehow like a process that they run you through, like a programming or like a matrix, you can say, right? And to choose, and like I really remember what type of body I was choosing, where I'm going to incarnate in, and also the family, which is interesting. So I did remember that, and I got brought back to a few more moments that are not in this not in this life, which is kind of interesting for me to observe. And hearing the new telling what you're telling is just another beautiful confirmation, because at first I'm like, whoa, that's weird. And if you would have asked me 3 years ago, I would say like, what are you talking about, Anne? And he like, come on, right? I haven't been on a spiritual journey. I haven't been aware that I am psychic. I haven't been aware that I am telepathic, and that I have those gifts of being clairaudient, telepathic, however you want to look at it. But the moment that I started becoming more aware of it, then doors just opened up and it just felt right. This is not something that the logical mind has to understand. I think it's a feeling that we are pulled towards to awaken the gifts that do lie within us. And I believe that everyone is telepathic if we allow ourselves to receive this. Some people made some choices to don't see those things, right? They have those barriers
Yep.
in front. And yeah, I've been very different, or I changed a lot in the last 3 years. So through the work that you did, what changed for you in your internal world?
Interesting you were talking about the telepathic abilities, because that's my understanding as well. As children, we can all talk to animals telepathically. And if you look at little kids, they squat right down next to the animals and they'll tell you what the animal has told them. And most parents think, oh, yes, very nice, and don't understand that it really is a genuine conversation. But just something happens as we grow up and we just close off that ability. With our spiritual gifts, I think they just turn on at different times. As a child, I had claircognizant skills, which I didn't realise, but I would just know things and I wouldn't know why I knew things. Like there's no rational explanation why I would know the answer, but I just would. And I didn't
Exactly.
realise that that was a spiritual gift. And then when I had my spiritual awakening, I didn't realise I was having one, and I didn't know you could have a spiritual awakening. I didn't know anything about spiritual development or soul development
What's
or
that?
anything. And I just had my clairvoyant gift switch on one day. And I'd be having a conversation with someone like you, and I'd suddenly have images of your past and images of your future. And I'm thinking, what is this? And what am I supposed to do with it? And I spoke to a few people and they just said, oh, no, don't dabble in that. So I listened to them and I stopped for years. And then a friend found a psychic development course, spiritual development course. She's very intuitive and she said, I thought you might be interested in this. So I went along, my clairvoyance switched back on, healing switched on, other gifts switched on. And then for me, it's just been a journey since, learning as much as I can about spiritual gifts, spiritual development, healing, all sorts of things to do with the metaphysical world. But I think people wake up at different times. Excuse me. And for a while I thought, excuse me.
And
Um,
excused. Happens.
and for a while I thought, I've wasted all these years that I could have been doing what I'm here meant to be doing. But obviously the universe had other plans and I had to have time out from doing that spiritual work to do some other things, before I was ready to have it all back again and embrace it all and work with it. So for anyone who's listening, who's recently woken up or they're experiencing weird things where you don't know why, you know things or hear things or see things with no rational explanation, that can be part of your spiritual awakening. Some people it's a very quick process, some people it's a very deep process. And then in my experience, your gifts enhance as you continue to develop. So I'm a clairsentient, which means that I can feel things. So I'm at the point now, if I'm having a conversation with an animal, I can ask them to let me feel in my body what they're feeling in their body. So then if they've got physical symptoms, I can feel where they are and what's going on and let their humans know so that they can get the appropriate care, but also emotionally. So a lot of our animals hold grief. So if they've had another animal family member pass away or a human family member, they can hold on to that grief for years and no one knows, but I can feel how deep that grief is.
Is this ability something that you chose
No,
or
it
something
just,
that you came with?
I assume it's something that is a gift that's in me and it got activated at some stage. But now, as I've done more work with the animals, that ability has amplified. And so I can really feel it, which has been really useful because I can pinpoint where someone's got like a muscle issue or a joint issue, which means then whoever's looking after them can give appropriate care. I spoke with a horse who let me feel her left hip pain and it was stopping her from moving comfortably. And the owners didn't know of any injury to her hip, so they rang up the previous owner. And yes, she'd had a left hip injury 2 years before. and obviously it hadn't healed well, and it was still causing her a problem. So they were able to get body workers to her to help with the hip pain, so she's now comfortable moving. A lot of animals do hide pain. They don't want us worrying about them, so it can be tricky pinpointing exactly
And
what's happening.
they usually don't come around and like, oh, poor me. Like many humans, they do cry and then like putting themselves into a victim of, I can't do this. I mean, it's interesting to see the differences. No, and we had this conversation in the workshop that we did together. I think we had the name, Who Am I? Why Am I Here? The Journey of Spiritual Awakening, something like that. I mean,
Yes.
I just hit it. And we talked about those things as well. Like when we're waking up, and I didn't knew that you can wake up. You said this as well. It all feels a little awkward. It feels weird.
Yes,
And I
that was the
know
word I
that,
was going to use.
yeah.
Weird.
And the majority of the people out there, out here, they do feel weird with all the things that they do receive. And I'm like, whoa, am I really in here? Is this really happening? So it's just fascinating. The more we dive in, I mean, you start digging once and you don't want to stop digging, because the possibilities, they seem really infinite, and the ways that you can choose in terms of having those abilities that you mentioned, being claircognitive. I'd say yes, I do highly resonate with that. Although the clairsentient part, I do at times, when people have an argument, I feel it in my physical being, like a stomach pain or sometimes a headache. And I can also, when I work with people, I do intuitively get certain informations. And a week ago or 2 weeks ago, I asked I said, I want to feel what other people feel so I can heal it. And a few days later, I had a phone call with someone, and I had this massive pain in my lower, like in my sacral chakra area. And I'm like, whoa, this is not fun. I don't really know. I let her know right away. We talked about it, we communicated, and I could work through it because I knew it wasn't me in this stage. How do I know that it wasn't me? It's because I listen to myself and I ask myself those questions, and I usually don't have any type of pain in those areas. I did had as a child, but also this maybe could have been from a parent, who knows. And I decided then, like, well, okay, I mean, I think this is not what I'm supposed to do. So I asked, okay, I don't want to feel this anymore. So so I took the step back because this was very painful. And I know that I can receive that information in another way without me having to experience the physical pain like that. Yeah, it's interesting, right? But I think it comes back to choice, that we can choose also to activate certain abilities if we truly wish to. And I ask for those healing abilities to be there, right? I see the healing already done. And this is the work, how I go into a conversation with people, or generally into a healing for myself. If I have anything, that the pain is already gone, that I'm already healed, right? My grandma did this beautiful thing. I had a warts on my foot, and my grandma was talking to it in the night. And I always thought she's a little witchy, and she talked to it and made a cross on it, and then she said, tomorrow it is gone. And I believed it, right? I woke up, gone, just gone forever. And this somehow also programmed me, that every time that I had pain in the evening, in the nights, that I said to myself, tomorrow it is gone. And it was gone 99% of the times. It was gone. So it's beautiful how the power of belief and
Yeah.
choice, how this comes into it.
And I think it was interesting, when we say it's weird when we wake up, because it totally changes our understanding of reality. And like, we're not here just to get born, to live and to pass over. There's so much more. We come in with a life purpose or a soul purpose. We have soul lessons to learn, so do animals. And sometimes it takes a while for us to work out what we're actually here for, but it totally changes your perception and how
And
you
there are different
function.
purposes in the purpose, right? So there's like it's like divided into some sub chapters, and your whole entire thing has like certain chapters, and then you're like, okay, yeah, because some people don't know what this whole huge thing is. They have difficulties to see the whole thing, which is okay. But then what I can recommend everyone is just like, or anyone, to see what's next, right? Where am I now? And what do I want? And therefore, with what I want, if I don't want to feel that pain from other people, then I make the decision, and shall be it, right? My wish has been granted if it comes from a pure place. I mean, I could sacrifice that. And I know that many healers, they do take on certain things from other people to heal them. And because they say, okay, yeah, physically I can take it, because spiritually I'm still there and still aligned and pure, so I don't have to worry about the physical body, right? This is why people still get cancer. Also, they have been healers, and been very talented in, or gifted in what they do, or very, maybe even professional in what they do. So it's an interesting concept, and that always leads me back to the choices that we make. What do you think?
Yeah, and I think part of what you're saying with, your gift of clairsentience, and then you don't want to feel it so strongly, it's about setting boundaries as well. Like, I get asked, do I hear animals talking all the time? No, I don't. And I've set that boundary right from the start. And the same with talking to people in spirit. I don't want to be bombarded with people trying to talk to me all the time. And so I've set boundaries that when I connect with an animal or a person, that's when I can have the conversation and get the answers.
Mm,
But I need to have some time when I'm not doing that work. But it's also protecting your energy so that you're not getting drained by taking on everyone else's stuff. So it's all practices about, having that conversation, working with your client, but then sort of disconnecting yourself energetically, because otherwise you start carrying their energies and feelings with you, which ends up depleting your energy level and can make you unwell as well. So there's a lot to learn about, how to look after yourself once you have
mm-hmm.
woken up to your spiritual being. But I had an
Exactly.
interesting conversation with an astrologer recently, and I've never studied astrology. I don't know a lot about it, but she was telling me that in our birth charts, related on the date and time that we were born, there's information about our soul purpose and about our soul lessons. I
Mm-hmm.
didn't know that. There's also information about animals in our charts. But she's taken that one step further, and she's done a birth chart for her cat. And so she can see her cat's soul purpose and the soul lessons that her cat's here to learn. But she can also see past lives with her cat. And her cat's very intrigued in this lifetime with crystals. So I said, was your cat a healer in a past life? And she looked at the chart and said yes. And I'm convinced that, some of our animals, like my red cat that you can see in the background, is a healer. And I've spoken to a lot of healers, and the animals they have with them are here to help them with their work. So it's just interesting how we draw these different energies to us as well.
Exactly. And this again, then the law of attraction, that we do attract exactly who we are and what we need. This is why it is so powerful to change the way that we think, to make that conscious choice to set boundaries, also with the thoughts that are happening within the field, right? Many people are in their heads, and this is not allowing them then to access their super conscious self, their higher self, their soul, right? I didn't even knew that I have a soul, didn't even knew what an intuition is. And now doing what I'm doing, having conversations with people like you, is very fascinating for me. And I hope to inspire many through that as well, because there's nothing that's been told. right? It's nothing that I grew up with. So it's very interesting to have those conversations, and especially now the time, how fast we are moving. I've just had done the first numerology reading. She also took my name and my birthday, the time, and it was awesome. The things that have been revealed to me, and they just resonated. What means revealed? I knew them. So part of me knew it. And the logical mind just like, don't think about it. Just accept it for the way it is. And I believe acceptance is a big piece of the puzzle, to reach higher states, to really evolve continuously, right? Having that curve of growth. And it's about the trust as well. Trust and faith within ourselves, not waiting for an external force, right, to come to save us. Rather actually looking within and, okay, what can I do now? How can I take responsibility for myself, for the actions that I do, that I take, for the words that I speak? Because this is the power you named earlier, how animals like our voice, and we humans, we are highly gifted with doing lots of things with our voice. We can use our vocal cords to send people off. When I'm doing the guided meditations with people go very deep. People usually like to listen to my voice because of the calmness and the frequency that is carried within it. And it all has an aspect of it. And sometimes the insecurity or the fear or the ego wants to prove things. I hear the different voices, and it's sometimes not easy to listen to, or the throat sometimes, right? Like some people, I hear that their throat is blocked, but I can't really tell them because it's not my job to tell them, right? Because I know that they do know the answer. And whenever they're ready, they will find someone who can help and support them in their way, right? And this is something that we all have to acknowledge. I believe in the evolvement of our soul, that it is okay to ask for help, because we like it if other people come to us and ask us for help. We usually feel validated. It usually gives us a great sense of, oh, cool, I'm worth it. So usually people like that we're doing this, though it turns out to be very difficult sometimes to ask for help. And the same with then with all living things, right? If we look now here, planet Earth, we have humans, we have animals, many different types of animals. And to come together and to have those conversations, and we all can learn from each other. I look at the dog, at the cat, and they teach me something because of the way who I am, and what I project onto them is how they do react towards me. And to learn to have great relationships, to master relationships really, is also to master the relationship that you have with yourself. And the moment that you have the relationship with yourself, right, then you actually see how everything else starts to fall into place beautifully, right? Magically, truly. So have you seen something in your life as well when you started becoming or owning who you are on a deeper level, how not just the relationship with animals obviously changed, but also the way that you connected with other humans?
It's interesting because I've actually written about this in my book about love, and love being the key to everything. And I think that's really hard for a lot of people to master. And there's a number of different levels that we go through as we evolve. And the first step is self-love. And a lot of people don't love themselves. They don't like looking at themselves in the mirror. They just can't find anything about themselves to love. And if they're not at a point where they can accept themselves, then they're not radiating the right energetic frequency to attract someone to them to love them, and also for them to be in a position where they can actually love someone else. And this is something that I wish we could teach in schools as well, to help with self-esteem, that if people can learn to love themselves first, and even if there's something that they like about themselves, you know, they might like their hair, they might like their eyes, they might like their fingernails, they might like their speed when they're running, there'll be something that they can like about themselves. So they have to feed that, and then gradually get to the point, you know, standing in front of a mirror saying, I love you. And, you know, that's really challenging for a lot of people as well, because they look in the mirror and think, I don't love you. But your soul hears that and is affected by it on an energetic level. And so the words that we use, as I said, you know, the animals love the high frequency words, and so does our soul. So if, when we get to the point, you know, we might have to say, I like my hair, I like my eyes, and get to the point where you can genuinely look in the mirror and say, I love you, without, you know, it's not being, you know,
Exactly. Yeah.
it's a genuine thing that you love the body that your soul is in. That's very powerful to get to that point. And once you can love yourself, then you can send love out to other people, you can send it out to animals, you can receive that love back, and then you can get to a point where you can even send love to people that you don't like. And that's a very challenging step for some people as well. Like, how could you send to some love to someone who's hurt you or betrayed you, or, you know, really upset you? But you can, as you evolve, you can get to that point where bygones are bygones. Yes, they may have done something to upset you, but, you know, you're a person who can send that love and forgiveness out to them. And then you get to the point of unconditional love. And that's what our animals are here to help activate in us as well. And for a lot of people, an animal is the only being that they have a relationship with. And so they're relying on that relationship to receive the love and companionship that they're not getting from another human being. But that's all part of our heart evolvement, getting to that point where we're willing to accept love coming in from someone else. And that's a really hard step for a lot of people to get through.
Allowing the love to come in.
Yep.
Right. Many people do, like me included. I didn't allow it to come through in ways, and it's us actually allowing ourselves, and to have this in mind, or to realize, is a key aspect. And I believe that the whole concept about love, I love where the conversation is going, by the way. The whole conception that people have around the topic love and what love actually is distorted, because people think love is for me to you, like between one human being, then we have an intimate relationship and we make babies, or from a mother to a child to family love. But it's so much more than that. I believe it is a state of being. And just because you love everyone, it doesn't mean that you have to like everything other people do. Because if you actually don't like something that other people do, it's okay, because you learn from the contrast of things, right? We have to see the opposite somehow to grow. It's what we chose to experience. And then through, it's just important not to feel hatred against other people, because the moment that we allow those negative thoughts to be overly present, and we are vibrating in that lower frequency, maybe even fear as well, and like, this is, we're not going anywhere. And you see some people that they have no energy, they look like the Walking Dead. It really is like that. And I just saw it in you. Like, I mean, we haven't had a conversation for a few months, I think, or haven't seen us. And I was like, wow, you look lighter. You look you you look younger than you looked a few months ago. And this happens with us right now as well, that we are currently, through doing the work and by looking that we are really loving everything that we do, that we automatically become younger and our cells rejuvenate, and we feel better, and this sickness and the illness, the disease goes away. And it's beautiful that we're actually having that ability. And I had a conversation with Roger yesterday about the journey of self-healing. And it's, again, right, it is the way, it is all about us, when we have to stop looking everywhere else to find us. Right? many people traveling the whole world and trying to find themselves, right? And some people will just keep continuing it. So I like what you say, it all starts with self-love. And then again, like, to be reflective of the actions and words, behaviors generally, that we do have on daily basis. And the moment that that I become aware of something that I'm not happy with within myself, then it is about to change it, not to do the same mistakes over and over again, which is silly. Like, it is not. If people have to learn to move forward, right? If I make the same mistakes over and over again, what did I learn? Where am I choosing to go?
And that's my understanding too, that, you know, some of these are our soul lessons. And if we don't learn the lesson, we get put in that same situation again. And if we don't change how we respond to the situation, we still keep getting the same lesson until we finally work out that we need to respond differently. We can choose how we respond to a situation. So if you say something that upsets me, I can work out whether I get really angry and say something to you, which I'll later regret, or if I think, okay, I don't know what circumstances you're under. You might be very tired after being up in the middle of the night doing your podcast, and something may have upset you, and that's not really what you meant to say. So it's learning that we've got choices in how we respond, but also learning sometimes to think we don't know what that other person's been through. And so it's easy to judge, okay, I can think, okay, you're very angry. But it may well be that there's other things going on that have influenced you to be like that, and that's not your normal behavior. And also, yeah, choosing the words that we say, because once we've said them, we can't unsay them. And it's sometimes challenging to say something that's positive. And there's that lovely thing, if you can't say anything nice, don't say anything at all. And that way you're not hurting anyone, because if you really say what you want to say at the time, that can do even more damage. And so it's even the same with talking to our animals. Like, some people call their animals really derogatory names, and the energy of that name affects the animal. And saying negative things to our animals affect them as well. I spoke to some crocodiles in a zoo, and one of the females said to me, "We've got feelings too. We think we're beautiful." And so that obviously heard people saying how ugly they looked, and that really affected them. So it's just being conscious of what we say and how we say things that can really affect us. And, you know, as we evolve, everyone's at a different point on their soul development pathway. So, you know, you've had a accelerated period of growth since your awakening, and some people it's over a much slower period. So people learn things at different times, and it's about being patient and thinking, okay, that's where they're thinking at the moment. That may change if they unblock themselves and they're open to progressing more. And some people may choose not to, and that's their choice. And we can't heal everyone, we can't fix everyone. There's a level of self-responsibility there with where they want to go. And maybe that's their life purpose, that they have to get to a certain point, and they may not have been to that level of evolvement last time around.
I love it. And everything that you say is so true. And this is what I love in those conversations, that we have to learn to just be in a place of truth and honesty, right? Honesty is one of my biggest values. And yeah, thanks for being here, Annie. It's been a pleasure talking to you, and I feel this topic is a very great way to leave it, and to have people sit with it, because love for one's own self is very important. And be kind is what I can say, right? Be kind to yourself and others. Treat others the way that you want to be treated. If you don't want to be hurt, don't hurt other people. If you hurt someone else, learn to forgive yourself. And if you forgive yourself, you've been forgiven. And this is the most important part. So where can people find and learn more about you?
My website is www.cosmicheartintuitive.com. or they can find me on Facebook or LinkedIn as Annie Bourke, Bourke. My email is capital C, capital H, intuitive @bigpond.com, or you can connect through my website as well. My podcast is called What Animals Tell Me, and that's on multiple platforms, including Spotify. And if people are in Australia and they're interested in my books, they're welcome to email me. I've got copies of the books here that I can post out to them.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I will place the information also below in the chat box and or in the comments, however, in the description, however you want to call it. Everyone, don't forget to like and to share if you felt some inspiration. Thanks for joining, and see you in the next one. Ciao, ciao.
Bye.